Dr. Gemara, Kufyud Beis, Amid Beis, on top of the Amid. Sacher bezmani nishbevenait. We quote from the Mishnah. It says that a sacher, the employee, as long as it's within the time period, after he's allowed to start asking for his money, which is after he completes his work, but within the varying shitas and time frames that are discussed in the Mishnah, because by day he has to do it the next night, by night he has to do it the next day. So he makes a shvua, and that he's owed the money, and then the balabas, the boss, has to pay him. Generally, the rule is that a person makes a shvua, the person who is the one who has the money, he makes a shvua to pater himself from having to pay more. Where do we have such a thing, or having to pay at all? The might have mixes is the classic case. So the person who is being requested to pay, he makes a shvua to avoid paying. Why do we have over here that the employee who is trying to take money from the boss, he can make a shvua to take money? Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel says this is telling you a grace halach. In fact, the Gemara Hani Hilchos Aninu. What says Hilchos has a mashmoyis of a deraisa. It's not a deraisa. Hani takanas ninu. This is a takanas chachamim. Why are you calling it halacha? Right? Whenever we say Hilchos Gemirila, we say it's a halacha l'meishim misina, which is essentially a deraisa. But Hilchos is mashma a deraisa. We're saying, telling you a very important takana chacham. In fact, that seems to be mashma, that there's some takanas chachamim that it's not so important to listen to. But I guess if you go with the view that listening to a takanas chachamim is you're being makayim leisaser, or if you don't listen, you're being over on leisaser. So it ends up being a deraisa, so they should all be equivalent. This is the takana that is very important for people to remember. Shvua, what does it mean? Shvua the balabayasi. Really, it's the balabayas is the boss's shvua. He really should be the one making the shvua to avoid paying. But the Chum took it away from him and gave it to the sacher, to the employee, of the sacher, in order that the sacher should have what to live on. He needs what to eat. So yeah, why since when do we put our thumb on the scale? The balabais also needs to make a living. Why are we saying that we have to make sure the employee makes a living and therefore take away from the balabais? So balabais gufe nichale de mishtab sacher b'shakol. It's to the benefit of the balabais as well. In order that he should be able to find payalim. If payalim know that when it comes time to get paid, all the balabais has to do is make a shvua, and then they're going to be left out without getting paid, they're going to be reluctant to take jobs. And he needs workers to harvest his fields. So the Gemara, it goes the other way around. The balabais is going to say, I'll do the work myself rather than hiring people, or I'll just let it to rot, because otherwise, it's going to be a self-selecting process. Whoever the dishonest schirim are, they'll come and they'll say, I owe him, he owes me $50 a day, and I only promised $10. And the guy who's willing to make a full shul, he's going to take jobs. Now, I don't really understand this, because why can't the person claim that he worked and make a shvua and say, So I guess the shvua there has to be some independent verification that he worked. Yes, there should be Adam. Someone should have seen that he worked. But if the Balabais says you never worked for me, then Ein Chanami, he can make a shvua. The Balabais make a shvuas hesis. The Rabban make a shvua to avoid it.
But we were talking about where the Baal Bayis is saying, I already paid you, and he's saying you didn't pay me yet. So on that, the Baal Bayis is, so why are we equally concerned that the Baal Bayis is going to say, I'm not going to hire people because they're going to claim they weren't paid after I paid them and I have to pay them twice. So tomorrow, Baal Bayis, I'll korche ager. No, but the reason is, even though the Baal Bayis has a concern that he's going to be double billed, but he has to have workers. In the end, he can't do all the work himself. So he's going to have to hire someone. So therefore, he's willing to take the chance, and make it easier for the employees that he should be able to find workers. So just like the Sachar needs to find workers, the workers need to find work. So they should also be equally equal, that they'll take the chance that the Baal Bayis will make a shvua and not pay them. So Mars retreats from this whole thing. The problem really is that, like we've mentioned this before, a Baal Bayis has a number of workers, and it's hard for him to remember whether you already paid the guy or not. You paid him yesterday, paid him the day before, and he thinks he paid him today, and he forgets. So tomorrow, if that's the case, if we're saying that the Baal Bayis forgets that he paid, why does the Sachir have to make a shvua? Let him just take it, because the Baal Bayis Taka doesn't remember whether he paid or not. The Sachir certainly remembers whether he was paid. He's not going to go able to buy his supper if he didn't get paid. So tomorrow, K'dei l'hav is died to show Baal Bayis. We make him make a shvua because the Baal Bayis is concerned. He says, listen, I'm not 100% sure that I paid, but in my mind, I think I did pay him. So in order to give him some security that he's not being robbed, we allow the Sachar to make a shvua and take money from him. Why don't we short circuit this whole discussion and require that the Baal Bayis, when he pays him with Eidim? We find that that's in general the rule. By a star, when you have a chayiv with a star, it has to be paid up with Eidim. The borrower cannot say, I paid it up, and even though the other person is holding a star, he has to do with Eidim. So why don't we have the same requirement here? So it's unworkable to have to every day when you're handing out the money to have to get Eidim. So why don't we have him pay beforehand? Why don't we have him pay before he starts working? If means make it takana, that you should pay before work, and then you can never say if the worker will say I wasn't paid, he'll say, then why'd you start working? So the Gemara says no. Everyone prefers that you pay at the end. The Baal Bayis he's gonna have the workers work for him and take what they produce and go get money, and that's how he's gonna pay them. So everyone likes to work with credit because they don't have the money right away. And the Rashi says an interesting thing. For the Pa'ilim are worried if there's going to be a hole in their pockets, literally, not that they're going to burn through the money, but they're going to lose the money over the course of the work. Zak Gemara, if this is true, if we allow a sacher to make a shvua and take away, why is this only true by a sacher? Let's say the ihach yafilu katzitz nami. If someone has hired a worker and they made up a price, and now they're disagreeing about what price was made up. He did the work, and now they're disagreeing how much was the price. The sacher, we're talking about whether he was paid or not. Now we're talking about how much was the original price that they made up. Why don't we have applied the same rule and say that the owner, the craftsman got mixed up because he has a bunch of deals that he's doing, and let's believe the person who hired him was the one who's paying. Actually, the other way around. The sacher should be believed. Let the sacher be able to take away, not the sacher, I'm sorry, the uman be believed to take away money at the amount that he said, because the owner presumably got confused. Allah Matanya, we say Tosa says it's going to be maybe it will remain a moedim and mixus, and therefore there'll have to be a shvua. The owner will have to make a shvua. Since he's being moedim, he pays one. He'll have to make a shvua. He doesn't owe the other one. But why don't we just believe the omen to make a shvua and take away? So Gemara says about the mitka, the kirilei in sheet. The Gemara, it's not similar. People remember when they hire someone to do work. It's not similar to the case of a laborer where people do forget. Just not the practicalities are not like that. So now the Gemara goes back to what we had originally said. We said that we believe a sacher with a shvua because the balabais gets confused. If that's the case, even why is it only during the zman that the sacher is believed with a shvua, and afterwards he's not? Why is it that once the time passes, then he can make a shvua? Because if the time passed and the owner had not paid him, he was over on Baltalin, and that seems unlikely. It's one thing if he's the balabais is, he's confused. He's saying, I don't remember right now. Come back to me in an hour. But once the Zman comes to that he's going to be over on a deraisa, at that point we assume he paid. But I always said the balabais doesn't remember. So if he doesn't remember, he's not going to think he's being over on Baltalin. So what's the problem? So but that's only until it comes to the deraisa. It's earlier there. The guy worked all night, and now the balabais has the day to pay, and it comes 6:01 a.m. And right after the laborer finishes work, he goes to the balabais and he says, "Pay me my money." And the balabais says, I think I paid you already. Come back, even though it's, let's say 6:02. I think I paid you at 6:01. Come back later. But once it's 6 p.m. and now he's going to be over the rice, at that point he's going to focus and remember. But when it comes to time when he's going to be chayv the rice, he's going to focus. So you're saying that the balabais has a chazaka after this man chiyuba, the sacher can no longer swear because we assume the balabais wouldn't want to be over on Balsolin because sacher over mishum baltigzel. He's also going to be over the rice if he's taking when he's not allowed to. So why are we assuming more that we trust the balabais and we no longer trust the sacher? Why don't we say that the sacher also wouldn't be asking for it at this point because of the rice? So there's two chazakas that the balabais says connected to one of the sacher. Gabe balabais it could trey chazak dichada the ain balabais over mishum baltal. Like we said, once it's this man past this man chiyuba, he would be focused on baltal. Chada in sacher mashas charay, and one is that a sacher we know he's going to be pestering for his money. Once it's past his man chiyuv, he would have brought things to a head. He wouldn't have accepted if the balabais kept on pushing him off. So because he needs his money. So the fact that it went past his man chiyuv also mitigates against the fact that he didn't pay. But the other direction, just a chazaka that he wouldn't say like sigzal, but there's no chazaka that the balabais would certainly wouldn't have paid, or that he would have. He doesn't have the other chazaka. The chazaka is normally that the sacher will demand to get his money before the time expires. We said in the Mishnah, the Mishnah said a strange thing, that if the edim that the sacher asked for his money, then he can make a shvua and be night. In fact, what are you talking about? What are you saying if there's edim? What does it make a difference if they're edim? He's going and asking for the money. Why are you saying that he was teveya the money? That they're edim that say that he was teveya. Like he's being teveya right now. What does that change anything? So Gemara,
Amar Ravasi shetavei bizman. We're talking about where it's the following day, meaning, let's say he's a schir shoyis, and we say that he has. Let's make it more simple. He's someone who works by day, and the whole night passed. The night when the boss was supposed to pay him, and that they went through that night, and the boss didn't pay him, and now the sacher is going and saying, "Oh, you didn't pay me." So now his tviyah is too late. Like we said, there's two chazakas against one, and he's not going to be able to be nishba v'noit. So if he brings Adam that he was teveya in the previous day and the balavais didn't pay him, then he gets an extension. As we're going to see, then he could be teveya even afterwards, and he could be nishba v'noit. Fact the Gemara, what does it help that he brings the aid that he was teveya? Maybe Taka, he paid him after he was teveya. How does the tviyah resuscitate his rights to be nishba v'noitel? Rabbi Shetava calls money. So Rabbi says, no, we're talking about where the Eidim are that he asked like a minute before the Zman. So then there was no time. They say there was Teveya, and I guess they also are essentially saying that we didn't see him pay. So does that mean that the Sacher can wake up a year later and say, oh, you didn't pay me a year ago? No, it just means the same amount of period that he was allowed to be Teveya. Since he was allowed to be Teveya, I guess at night, over the night, he has the next day, he has the same, another 12 hours in which to bring Adam. Right? Because bringing Adam that he was Teveya, and then resuscitating it and giving him that he could forever, all he has to do is wait till a minute before, and then he could be Nishba v'noitel. A year later, the Baal Bayis is not going to remember anything. And now we're moving away from the dinim of schiris, and we're going into the nitty-gritty dinim of a mashkin, which is, not the regular. Usually when we talk about a mashkin, we're talking about some dinim monistic dinim of mashkin. What over here we're going to be talking about is the rules, the restrictions on someone who takes a mashkin, when he can take the mashkin, what he can take from him, when he has to give it back, all the things that it mentions in the pasuk, right? There's, what are the psukim? Bachutz tamoid, when someone lends money, the pasuk says, Bachutz tamoid v'isha ata noiseboy, and the person that you owe the money to, yoitzi alecha sa'avei tachutza. The borrower has to take out his mashkin and bring it out to him. And the pasuk also says lo yachol. That's dvarim. That's and the earlier pasuk says lo yachol rechayim v'rechet kinefesh u'chayvel. You shouldn't take a millstone because you're taking away his livelihood. So, and then we also have kisisa breyacha masis u'malistavel basically lavet avayte. There's a restriction that you can't go into the house of the borrower to take the mashkin from it. Suck the Mishnah. Hamaves chaberei lo yimshachenu lo yimashkinenu elo bebez. Someone who lends to his friend, the only way he can take a mashkin from him is in bezdin. Now this is restricted. This is talking about. It's obviously not talking about if at the beginning when he makes the loan he says, "Give me a mashkin to hold on to during the loan," because that they could agree to. He could say, "I'm only doing it out tonight. You give me a mashkin." He's talking about after the loan is already, the zman of the loan is over, and the lender doesn't have enough money. At that point, before he can go and be goyver the money from the, let's say it's different Rishonim explain different ways, but let's say, I think the simple way is that he has 30 days, the borrower has 30 days in which to scrape up the money. During that time, he could go to Bezdin and get a mashkin from the borrower to hold on to for that time. When the 30 days are up, then he could sell that mashkin. In addition, he can't go into his house to take his mashkin. Like we quoted, the pasuk says he has to stand outside. It says, so he has to wait outside. He can't go inside. Now we're going to see it's going to be a machlekes in the Gemara. It's going to turn out to be a machlekes tanoim. Is this referring to Bezdin when we said you have to get Bezdin to send a shliach? We said before Bezdin has to send a shliach. Is that saying that Bezdin also can't go into his house and has to wait for him to bring it out, or is it talking about the Baal Chayev when he takes the mashke? Shnei kelim. If the mashkin consists of two kelim, and one of them is used by, Rashi explains, one of them is used at night and one is used by day, he has to, he could take one at a time and he has to leave the other one. Sorry. So the Mishnah explains, so the pillow he has to give him back at night, to use when he sleeps, and then he can take it in the morning. And then the morning comes, he takes back the pillow, the lender takes the pillow, and he gives back the plow so that the borrower can work during the day. The mace ain't a machzal. This din that he has to give back the mashkin when it's needed, that's only for the actual borrower. But if the borrower dies, he need not give it back to his yarshim. I imagine it would be difficult to then get it from the yarshim, even though we said that you can take a mashkin from yarshim, but it's certainly a lot harder. And he says that din that you have to return the mashkin when it's needed, that's only during the 30 days that the borrower, the first 30 days after the loan came due and the borrower wasn't able to pay. After that time, he need not return it. He can go sell the mashkin and get foreclosed and get his money back. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, so back to the first part of the Mishnah. Shliach Bezdin, mintach natuchi in avamushkuni loy. He can, the Shliach Bezdin can seize the mashkin from the borrower. The borrower is not interested in any of this mashkin, right? This is not the classic mashkin that we're thinking about, where you go into the bank and you offer up a mashkin as collateral. This is talking about the beginning of the foreclosure process. So they can only seize from him in the streets. But to go into his house and take from his house, they can't because of the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Bachutz tamid." So that applies to the Bezdin as well. Correct, but our mission is the mashma like that. But it's not. It says, when you lend from your father, you can only take a mashkin from Bezdin. They use the lashon of mashkin. That's mashma. The Bezdin can go take it away from his house, not just be menatech, only in the streets. I'm not sure. I don't hear that nafkamina in the lashon of a mashkin and how it means in the house also. But I think it's a lashon Gemara, and it's the question is that the Mishnah is not machalik. It sort of says leim shchanenu ela bebezin without any chlukim about where you take it from. Amalei Shmuel emol yinaschut yinaschenu. You should say lo yinaschenu ela bebezin. When it says lo yinaschenu, either it means lo yinaschenu or you have to change the lashon to lo yinaschenu. And Shmuel says, money. Who is that talking about when we say you can't go into the house? If you say the Baal Chayev, from the fact that we said, we already learned that the Baal Chayev can't take from his house. It's talking about the Shliach Bezdin. Gemara says no. I could have understood it without making that the Hakikam. That the Bezdin Taka can go into his house. And the Baal Chayev can't even take from him in the streets. Why? So the Gemara is missing the crucial words. the Mishnah is explaining the reason why a Bal Chayiv can't take it in the street. Because the pasuk says he's not allowed to go into the house, they also are misaken that he shouldn't take it in the streets because maybe he'll come to take it in the house. So that's the way we would understand the Mishnah. That if one disagreed with Shmuel, and we would say that a shliach bezdin can take it from the house and in the streets, and the Bal Chayiv can't do it either place because with geyser he can't take in the streets because he can't take in the house. Maser Rav Yosef, L'yachol Rechaim, he asked from a brisa on Shmuel, and these are all going to be questions on Shmuel's hanacha that a shliach bezdin can't go into the house to take a mashke. You can't take as a security, as a mashke, the different parts of a millstone, but other things you can go into his house and take. But someone who's not an almana, you can go into the house and take man. We already said he can't go into his house to take any mashke. Elav shliach bezdin. Elamai, it must be talking about the shliach bezdin. So l'chayr, it's not like Shmuel. Taking Papa Breder of Nachum, Kameder of Yosef. Amir Papa Breder of Yosef, Kameder of Yosef. La'olam b'Bal Chayiv. Einachanami is talking about Bal Chayiv. I was saying the Bal Chayiv can't go into the house to take the millstone, and he can't go into the house of Almana. He can't go into the house to do anything. Lava lava shnei lavin. In these cases, he's a mechayiv shnei lavin. In addition to the general isser of going to his house, he also has an isser for going to the house and taking these specific things. Toshma, another kasha on Shmuel. Mash shnei b'chutz tamid. The pasuk says, all right, b'chutz tamid v'isha she'ata noisa b'yoytze lechat avoytach chutza. Any adeh she'isha she'ata noisa b'yoytze. What does it say? You should bring it to the man who you owe the money to. Who else are you going to bring it to? Meaning even a shliach bezdin, you have to take it out to him. Not like Shmuel. My love shliach bezdin koloiv. Isn't it saying that the shliach bezdin is like the loiva? That just like what does that mean? But it's the other way around. Isn't that saying that the shliach bezdin
is the one who takes it out?
We want to say that a shliach bezdin, Rashi says, she comes to habayis. Welcome, Isha who shliach bezdin v'asherata noiseba yoytzi alecha. He should bring it out. Isn't it saying that the shliach bezdin is like the loiv, that he can go into the house and take out just like the loiv can? Shliach bezdin kamalva. No, it's saying exactly the opposite. That the shliach bezdin is like the malva, that he has to stand outside and he's not allowed to go inside, like Shmuel said. Tashma, im chavoil tachvoil shal masreyecha. If you come to take from the house of a loiva, his cloth, the shliach has bezdin akasam b'daber. The pasuk is talking about shliach bezdin. Ata em b'shliach bezdin akasam b'daber ein elav b'al chayiv. What is the whole pasuk? The pasuk says, "Im chavel takol sham zerecha ad boya shemesh tishibenel." You have to return it, and it's talking about a shliach bezdin, and it's saying he should go into the house and take it. Ata em b'shliach bezdin akasam b'daber ein elav b'al chayiv. Maybe it's talking about chayiv. We already said by Bal Chayiv that when he goes into the house, so it's that he's allowed to. It seems to be saying clearly that he can go in to take out from his house, because we said that it certainly can't be talking about the Bal Chayiv, because the Bal Chayiv is not allowed to go into the house. The pasuk says that clearly. So the Gemara finally concedes. Tanoihi. Elamai, it's a machlekes Tanoim. The Taka is Tana who holds that a shliach bezdin is an exception. The pasuk is not applying to it. The Tana. And the pasuk, the Bryce says it very clearly. It's just going to say over the machlokes. Shliach bezin shabal l'mashkanoi. A shliach bezin who comes to take a mashkan, lo yikanis l'beis l'mashkanoi. He can't go to his house. Lo imi b'chutz. Lo moitzu lo mashkan. Shnei b'chutz tamid v'ish. We learn that from b'chutz tamid v'ish is, and like we said before, v'ish is referring to shliach bezin. He as well has to stand outside. So this is the Tana like Shmuel. The Tanya idach. If the Balchayv himself, rather than Shliach Bezin comes, he can't go into his house. And the other one goes, and the borrower goes in and he brings out the mashkan. Shliach Bezin, however, Shliach Bezin, he can go in to the house and be mashkan. So this is like those who are chaylik, like we brought a raya from the Mishnah, from the Brisa, into Chavel Tachboil, that Shlich Bezdin does not have an isser to go into a house and take out. So the Mishnah, the Brisa continues, he can't take away from him things that he used for Eichel Nefesh. He has to give him one bed, one plain bed, and one bed with a covering, if he's an Asher. And one bed, one plain bed, another bed with a mat on top of it for an ani. So a usher gets a more luxurious covering made out of a cloth covering, a velvet covering, with his second bed, and the ani gets a second bed with just a mat. But these chiyuvim of providing a bed only apply, or two beds, only apply to the loiva. But it's not required. If he has 10 kids, he has to leave over 20 beds, or even a bed for his wife. And the Gemara says, the same way that we leave over for a balchayv, that we don't take, we're not memashkin from him these bare necessities, is what he needs for Eichel Nefesh, and his beds, we provide the same thing for Erechin. Where it says this din really comes from Erechin, and we learn it out from there. We will learn it out by Erechin, and we apply those same rules to Balchayv. Who is that second bed for? If you're saying the second bed is for his wife and children, the Mishnah, the Brisa said clearly that they don't get anything. Ideally, both of them are for him. So what does he need two for? One is for him to sleep on, and one is for him to eat on. I know the cure for everything. We'll leave this for tomorrow because I don't remember all this. If you eat a bitter date, aliba reikana, and if you eat with a empty heart or a empty stomach, or what is aliba reikana? Aliba reikana kaidem achila. I'm not sure what it means that you ate. If he eats a bitter date on an empty stomach, the asar misna, he takes a belt of flax, I don't know what that means. I'm going to have to look it up. And someone who eats bread and he doesn't wait the amount of time of arba gamidi. I don't know. One of these things, I guess, is the same thing. You have to recline while you're eating. So Rashi explains why this last one is the one where we see he has to have a second bed. So if he doesn't wait for gamidi before he moves, therefore he needs a second bed that they bring him. and he sits down 4 amos from where he ate. So he has to have a second bed, so he doesn't lie down right away. He has to wait 4 amos before lying down. So that's why you have a second bed. Okay, we'll stop over here.